Hello and welcome to another episode on Team Peachtree, this time dealing with the trip from Boise, Idaho to Moscow. Obviously, this is a long way from Fifth Avenue. It's a long way from New York. It feels a little bit like the frontier. It feels like kind of a cowboy movie. So it seems quite a long time ago that I actually flew into Boise. I've been attending the trial there. In the airport, I actually saw a sign, about the University of Idaho. And anyway, for quite a few days, I've been attending trial. Actually, had a haircut as well, and even went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, over the previous weekend. Saw a wolf and spectacular scenery of the Grand Tetons. I've sort of made a friend at court. Even appeared on television briefly and in a news article as well. And then this weekend decided to take the trip to Moscow. And it is a totally different journey to the one that I did to the Grand Tetons. Do you mind if I explain why it's so different? So the road from Boise to Jackson Hole is long. It's about the same distance actually, but the main difference is that the highway is basically a double lane highway, and you can go about 80 miles per hour almost the whole way, right? And there's just a section at the end where the road's sort of windy, and so going there to Jackson, it was a great trip. And then I came back via Rexburg, where the roads are sort of single lanes. And then, it was a pretty quick, the trucks go pretty quickly. But the route from Boise north is it's like 300 miles of windy road. And I probably did the last 200 or 150 or so in the dark. So it was definitely quite challenging. I did spend maybe the first hour taking footage, stopping by the road and so on. There's a lot of snow melt. It reminded me a bit of the scenery that I shared with Lisa in Big Sky. Same sort of thing. And it's not really that far from Big Sky anyway. So just taking in the textures, the streams, the valleys, the pine trees, that whole sort of setting. And you do kind of get the sense that this is terrain that fishermen and hunters and sort of the wild men kind of enjoyed. And so it is through this terrain, snow, fortunately the roads were dry. I haven't yet driven on icy roads, I hope I don't, that I went north and I took in some pretty little towns. I would have loved to have taken the drive a little bit more slowly, or had a companion so that I could shoot things out, out the window. But it definitely was, it had its moments. And so I noticed this quite often. I'm not quite sure if it just represents some kind of, I think it's a lumber or timber store. This was a really difficult little house to get to. I'm not sure if it's a church or whatever, but I think that would make a fantastic painting. I've actually sent it to my brother. There's just such a old, beautiful building all on its own, and one does wonder what the history was. You could sort of almost see inside it. And even the shed to the side was quite scenic and worth looking at. And it was like waterlogged right around there. I had to park a long distance away just to get there. Around the corner was this road with a dead-end sign. And if you just stepped off that road to the right into the snow, you were sort of thigh deep up to your hips in snow. And so again, it's a whimsical, surprising, strange experience with someone who comes from a place where there's virtually no snow. And so this was across the road, another little shed, And so this was the route I was taking, the 95 North, the I95 North. At this point, this was where I stopped very spontaneously and had a subway. The lady in the subway, after I said 3 words, she said, "Oh, are you South African?" And we had a nice conversation. I had half of the subway there. And then there was this quite alarming situation where we just got stopped, and I wondered whether it might be a police stop. And the girls in the car in front of me asked, what do you think it is? And it turned out to be a oversized truck that was carrying one of those turbines for wind. What do you call it? A wind turbine. And so we waited about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But what was a little bit alarming was that it was getting dark. I didn't want to drive in the dark, and so that did set me back. When the traffic got going, I was quite surprised that the queue of drivers in front of me just disappeared into the darkness. So they drove really quickly, and I wasn't going to try and keep up. I was just trying to drive comfortably and kind of according to the speed limit. And so, at this point, I was a bit concerned, but we did get going again. And after a long period in the dark, it wasn't that bad. The Moscow sign eventually came up, and so that's where I was this morning, bright and early. I didn't sleep very much. I got up pretty early while it was still dark. Saw a lady walking her 2 dogs. And I really like this little town. It's a beautiful little town. I wish I could have had my college years here. I went up to the tower that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. It was actually quite a steep climb. You may remember that Kaylee's dog was sort of filmed there as well. And so I went up to the tower and just got a sort of helicopter view around the surroundings below the tower. Also, actually stumbled on the main building of the university, which is really a beautiful, beautiful building. It was actually a beautiful morning as well in Moscow, even though, it's warm given how cold it's been. And so at one point I actually saw a squirrel in this tree. It was lower down, and of course when I took my camera out, it didn't really move at all, but there's actually a squirrel in that tree. Also saw a black cat around the corner the night before. And so this was that drive I took. Actually, my navigator was taking me the wrong way because it was telling me to go right, but you couldn't go right. But in a way, I'm grateful that it took me through this little passage, because I wouldn't have gone there otherwise. And how beautiful those buildings look in the early morning sunshine. And so I found this also quite interesting. Merry Christmas on these big grain silos. That's kind of on the outskirts of Moscow. And so, that was me this morning. And that's Timmy. You can see my garden's still green, even though we are on the verge of winter. I believe the weaver birds are not there, but some other finches have taken over its nest, so things are happening. Garden looks pretty good, doesn't it? Anyway, I hope you found this enjoyable. I'm certainly loving my journey through America, and it's always worth going out into the unknown and making discoveries about our world and ourselves. I hope you've enjoyed this episode from Team Peachtree. Keep weaving, and I'll see you guys next time.